South Pacific islands of Samoa share many of the challenges faced by other developing countries. Many of Samoa's people still live in rural areas and struggle to meet modern expenses, often surviving on subsistence farming and remittances from overseas relatives. Most Samoans operate in the informal economy, with only 18% of the population formally employed in salaried positions. 1/5 of the country's population of 180,000 people live below the poverty line. The country also faces a high trade imbalance, with 10 times more products and services imported than what are exported. Historically, the government dominated the economy through a growing number of state-owned enterprises and by generating spending through government projects. By the late 1980s, this situation led to negative economic growth and an urgent need for change.
The economy went down to such a stage we were virtually bankrupt. And so that's why in 1990 we began to put in wide-ranging reforms to ensure that the economy continues to grow and grow.
Despite sharing similar challenges with other developing countries, what is unique in Samoa is the long-term stability of its government and the strong cultural identity of its people. The continuity of the ruling political party enables successive administrations to embark on a series of regulatory and policy reforms in the 1990s. These reforms aimed at making the economy more robust and less reliant on government spending.
The importance of the policies we established was they created an enabling environment which promoted the private sector. And so we had to look at incentives and also rationalize the tariff structures to, at the same time, the kind of promotional incentives policies to ensure that the private sector is given enough leeway to perform.
A number of international donors and agencies, including the Asian Development Bank, assisted the government in setting up a regulatory framework and long-range development plans. One of the cornerstones of the government's economic reforms was to enable the development of more small businesses in Samoa. One of the reforms that fueled this development included the revision of the Companies Act, which now clarifies the corporate governance framework and simplifies the processes for incorporation and management of companies. It also allows the incorporation of a sole person company, where one person can be both shareholder and director. This directly benefits smaller businesses. In 1994, Samoa's government established the Small Business Enterprise Center, or SPEC, to promote the development of small businesses. SPEC offers training and advisory services, as well as helps guarantee loans to start-up small enterprises.
Since 2002, where we have facilitated access to finance through the ADB project from the government of Samoa and also from the New Zealand government, we have facilitated access to finance for more than 1,200 small businesses.
From the beginning of the Small Business Enterprise Center, potential entrepreneurs stepped forward to take advantage of the new economic climate in Samoa. Among those early clients was Fololina Avia. Fololina was initially turned down for a commercial loan for her business because she didn't have enough security. But in 2002, SPEC guaranteed Fololina's loan and provided some initial training.
I started with one boat, one aliyah. Within that 1 year, I make 5. Then that 5, the other year, I reached 11.
Fololina now has 10 fishing boats and supplies her fish directly to her markets. She has created employment and adds to government income through the taxes she and her workers pay.
By the time the boat's out, I always hear. By the time the boat's coming in, I sleep here, that's why I sleep here. So it makes me successful. I achieve the goal because I know money works for money.
Another more recent entry into a small business was Chese Peteru. Chese worked in the public hospital for several years, developing valuable skills in ultrasound scanning. He decided to set up Samoa's first private ultrasound service, but it was not as easy as he thought.
I think everything was hard. To me, in the beginning, I just thought it was a matter of knowing the trade, getting a loan, just managing business on a day-to-day basis.
Through SPEC, Chese was able to take out an initial loan to purchase ultrasound testing equipment, which was vital to his business.
I didn't have any assets, so to speak, and there wasn't anywhere else to turn, and SPEC played probably the biggest role there is in terms of guaranteeing the loan.
SPEC also provided training, teaching Chese and others the basics of managing a small business. In 2.5 years, he was able to pay off the loan.
The first year was tough. I think it took the best of 6 months since I began. Then patients started coming in on a more regular. And in my first couple of years, I was seeing at least 1,000 patients. And up to this day, I'm looking at about 3,000 patients a year. And it's steadily climbing.
Although Samoa's strong cultural identity has proven to be a strength for the development of small businesses, it also presents many challenges. The Fa'a Samoa or Samoan Way is, in part, the strong traditional obligations Samoans feel towards their family, their community, and the church. These obligations can sometimes result in extended family members requesting products or cash from relatives who run small businesses without repaying. In Samoa, this is called fa'alavelave. In the Samoan Way, it is difficult to say no to a fa'alavelave. This puts a burden on the cash flow and profitability of small companies.
We face it every day. I can be saving so much money a week, and bang, you have a funeral here, a wedding here, in which also being a matai or Samoa custom, you're expected to give, and really does cause problems for you if you're trying to make the business work.
There are a lot of other outside factors like cultural obligations, religious obligations, even family obligations, which is, demands a lot on the business. And it depends on the business owner how they can manage the finances, whether they can put the money back into the business or they spend that money in their family. And some of the businesses have failed because of that.
One example of a business which was badly affected by cultural obligations was the dress shop run by Sili Meafo and her husband. The business is the only means of income for Sili, her husband, and their 9 children.
I always need money to buy other materials to continue the business, but if there's a fa'alavelave, I can't stop to help them. We can't say no to a fa'alavelave. It's a culture, so it's like a must. If we don't help them, so that means we don't love them.
In part because of cash flow problems, Sili's business defaulted on its business loan. The family continues to work hard, though, to find a way for their company to survive. Most small businesses in Samoa face similar challenges in running their companies. The challenge is to find the right balance between their family and business obligations.
I don't want the business to make loss, but it can be lost if I spend the money wrong, especially on the fa'alavelaves. I really try to put the effort inside the business to cover back the money that goes to the fa'alavelave.
Small businesses in Samoa are also affected by the global economic pressures felt by businesses throughout the world. They are also vulnerable to the frequent and devastating natural disasters that strike Samoa every few years. But Samoa's economy continues to develop, partly fueled by the establishment of more and more small businesses.
The government has taken a very proactive role in pushing the private sector. All infrastructures are in place, and all that is necessary is for the private sector to make use of the institutional arrangement and infrastructures that the government has put in place.
Samoa's economic reform process continues. Several proposed reforms are designed to help provide new and continuing businesses with access to much-needed capital, their lifeblood for survival. Proposed reforms include the Personal Property Securities Act and customary land reforms. These reforms will make it easier for those wanting to set up small businesses to use customary land and movable assets as securities for getting small business loans. The lessons learned in Samoa highlight the need for Samoans themselves to take ownership of the country's economic development. The stability of Samoa's government has allowed sometimes difficult reforms to be implemented with strong political support. Ways to handle cultural obligations like fa'alavelave are now included by SPEC in its capacity building of prospective business owners. This has led to entrepreneurs setting aside essential funds for repairs or renewing their stock. This allows a balance between cultural obligations and business requirements. Entrepreneurs like Chese and Fololina have shown that with some assistance, Samoans can be the driving force to develop their own economy in the Samoan way.